In today's video, just like you saw in the title of this video, I'm going to talk about the major creative difference between brands that do $1, $3, $5, $10,000 in sales every single day compared to brands that pull in $70, $80, $90, $100,000 per day in sales. Now, if you are new to the channel, my name is Brando. I work actively with 8-figure brands and 7-figure brands, so I can literally tell the difference immediately, especially when we onboard emerging 7-figure brands, okay? Before we get further into the video, this is just one of our own clients. As you can see, May 25th, they generated $86,900 in just one single day. Let me just refresh so you know this is real. I'm showing you this just so you understand the type of caliber of clients that we're typically used to working with, and also the level of data that we have access to on a day-to-day basis. Great, so now that we got that out of the way, let's get right into the video. As you can see here, let me start talking. I'm gonna be comparing a brand that does 3K per day compared to a brand that does 86,000 a day, right? And once again, I've been fortunate enough to work with over 100 plus brands in the last like 6 to 7 years. So I've been so fortunate to see like the major differences. And so this is typically what happens in how a 3 to 10K per day, as I like to say, brand operates and what they typically do. This is typically what happens. And so they come to us and we start looking at their ad accounts and we start seeing their entire sales processes. And the truth being is that they're just very good at copying and understanding kind of like funnel hacking and their competitors and basically copying and pasting their sales process, their landing pages, their offer, their product, their video ads, their images, basically everything. So they're copy paste hackers. And so they copy paste their winning ads or steal them, which isn't legal, I should say, for the long term. But anyway, they copy and paste their entire sales process. They wait until the main competitor launches new tests so that they can rinse and repeat this entire process. So basically, these businesses, and not all, but the majority, at least based on what I've seen, are the businesses that just like don't have leverage. Listen clearly, they don't have leverage over the creative process because every single thing that they launch and test is because somebody else did it, right? So somebody else is always going to be ahead of the curve, which is stopping them also from scaling, and that's when you get creative fatigue. And when you launch creatives, maybe they don't work as well as the competitor because they're emerging and they were the first comers. So once again, this process can get some results. I'm not saying it can't, but there's no innovation and understanding, as I said here, of what makes customers buy, right? There's no feedback loops. Everything is centered towards copying and pasting. Now let's compare a brand that does 86,000. And this is not a case study or anything. This is just me literally being transparent and sharing what I've seen, the traits that make a 3K a day compared to an 87K per day business. A little typo here. But yeah, let's get going. Number one, this starts with understanding your avatar customer. I'm not going to dive deeper into this. I'm assuming that if you're watching this video, you're enough of an expert to understand that the avatar customer is the most important thing. Why does Jeff Bezos talk about the customer so much? It's because he's such strangely obsessed with how they think, what they need to, what they think, what they want, how you need to address them to convert them, right? What landing pages they need to see, what offer they need to see. They're basically obsessed. 90K, 100K brands per day are obsessed about their customer, and so it also allows them to come up with emerging ideas. Okay, number two, studies winning ads. This type of brand studies winning ads, plus they understand why they work. This brand over here, they just copy and paste. They don't truly understand the framework behind what makes a winner. Okay, then learns why losing ads are losers. This is by far the most important thing, and what I'm going to talk about in this video on a further note. And it's so important because most of your ads are not going to be winners. They're going to be losers, or else everybody would be a trillionaire. If you launched 100 ads and all of them were winners, it would be weird, right? So the way that we do it is that we have a healthy hit rate, but still, the majority of our ads that we're launching into the ad account are just not going to work. And so we try to understand and create feedback loops, which is what 8-figure brands do, multiple 8-figure brands do. Consistent data-driven feedback cycles. So once we analyze losers, we compare them with winning ads, and we understand, okay, this is probably why it didn't work. So here's an A/B test proposition that we can test on the next test. So this is kind of like a rinse and repeat process. You see how this process is longer term, it's more valuable, and it has feedback loops that allow the brand to optimize and grow over time, as I just said over here. And so this brand puts in the work to understand their customer and why certain things work and others don't. Okay, so what I'm going to do over here is actually talk about what I think to be the most important thing of this process that actually gets you to the next level, right? And it's mastering winning creatives with feedback cycles, feedback loops, feedback cycles, call them whatever you want. So what most marketers, as I say over here, as I wrote, most marketers just study winning ads, and that's great. As I say, it's absolutely a must to study winning ads so you understand why they work. But to really get ahead of the curve, you must also study why the ads don't work, okay? In fact, it's over probably 90, 95, 85% of the ads are just not going to work. And so it's better for your own time to study why the majority of your ads are not working, because then you can come up with different feedback loops. So this is typically what a seven-figure brand does and how they test, what 99% of, I would say, seven-figure brands do. They launch ads, they're failed. There's nothing wrong about failed ads. We also have failed ads. Everybody has failed ads. But they skip the feedback loop. They completely skip the feedback loop and they just go on and launching a new batch of ads without a strategic iteration in place, a strategic A/B test. This is a huge problem because if you don't have feedback loops, you're just hoping that something sticks on the wall. And so the way that we do it that has really worked for us, and I'm not just saying in regards to like one specific client, this is universally how I've also seen other 8-figure brands operate. And so we get the failed ads, okay? We get the failed ads, and we understand why the failed ads did not work, okay? And so how do we do this in the first place? Well, we have specific KPIs that we track that tells us what went wrong in what part of the video, what went well, and what, without really making any crazy genius assumption. We don't have to be geniuses. We can't really make assumptions. We can't really predict why things work. We have to look at the data. And so what I'm going to talk about over here is just some key metrics that we follow and that we put into the ad account that really gives us a good indication. I'm going to go through a list. These are not all of them, but they're kind of like the major ones. First of all, is the hook rate, the first 3 seconds, okay? Why it matters? First of all, why it matters? It matters because analyzing the first 3 seconds is basically the most important thing. If the first 3 seconds are not on point and like only 10% of people that watch the first 3 seconds just are gonna watch the rest of the video, it's a poor number. We want to have at least a 40% hook rate, something along those lines. So that means that over 40% of people watched between second 0 and second 3. This allows you to understand how good your hook rate. If your hook sucks, nobody's gonna watch you the rest of the funnel. Not even the rest of the ad, the rest of the funnel, because they're not going to move on in the sales process. So this is super important. Next thing is hold rate, okay? This is basically through plays divided by impressions. And by the way, hook rate, it's basically the first 3 seconds, right, divided by impressions. If you want to put it into your ad account, this is how the calculation is, okay? Hold rate, why does it matter? Well, it tracks retention, okay? How long people stay within the ad. And this is just a diagnosis as an example. If there's a sharp drop at let's just say 3 to 5 seconds, that basically means that equals weak hook payoff, okay? If the drop is at 8 to 15, that equals poor transition into the body, right? And so you get the point. So it's always good to understand what the hold rate is of your ad. What is the through plays? What is it? The calculation here is through plays divided by impressions. Okay, and so 40% is a good number to aim for as well over here. Next thing is conversion rate. I mean, I don't need to really explain this, but final proof of performance if all else looks good. As an example, if you have good click-through rate on the ad, but a bad conversion rate, that probably means that the landing page or the offer is the issue. Or on another note, if you have a bad click-through rate, but a very healthy conversion rate, probably mean that there's a good messaging, but there's poor delivery, right? You get the point. So this allows you to reverse engineer what the problems are. CTR breakdown, we like to do like all versus link clicks, specifically looking at link clicks because CTRs with link clicks, unique link clicks, basically tell you just all the people that click, which is what we're interested in, right? We're not interested in somebody that just pauses the videos or interacts with the ad. We just want to see the people that actually click. And so high click-through rate means that the video is probably engaging, right? And then we can compare it with the conversion rate, right? If the conversion rate is high, right, but there's a poor CTR, then we know that the problem is on the front end, not the back end, right? So we can compare all these metrics. Then we have engagement rate. I don't need to really explain this. We analyze likes, comments, shares, percentages wise. So we can always compare. For example, high engagement rate, but poor conversions equals potentially a misleading creative or off-brand, or low engagement and poor CTR, click-through rate, equals creative fatigue or weak performance, right? These are some ways that we look into the ad account. Now let's talk about one really important thing, which is the next step. Once we analyze these things, right? To understand why things are not working, we analyze these KPIs. At least in some case, these are not all the KPIs. That's what I'm trying to say that we analyze. These are like the top 5 or 6. But the next thing that we want to do is compare the failed ads with the winning ads. And let me explain exactly how we do it. This is the best way, as I say here, to understand what components and elements are different compared to a winning ad and compete that you're competing against. So what we do, for example, here is that we take a look at the losers. This one is basically the losing ad. And we compare it with the winners. This is like one of the best winning ads of either our own ads or our best direct competitor, okay? So what we like to do to analyze this and understand the major differences is that we want to basically do a scientific breakdown that looks something like this. And not to get too much into the weeds here, but we basically get the best winning ads from our own ad account or from our best direct competitor, as I said before. In this case, it's ad number one, it's a podcast style. And so we analyze the ad framework. We basically understand what is the framework of the entire ad. Good, it starts with a hook, and this is the hook. Then it goes into sharing the pain and the credibility factor. Then it goes into sharing a testimonial. And then it goes to doing a failed attempt, basically understanding the structure overall of the video. And then we try to analyze buying triggers. What elements within the ad are making people to buy? Is it a curiosity factor? Is it a tangible, fast result that people see? Is it a product demo where there's undeniable proof that the product works? We understand buying triggers, right? So that we can compare them within the rest of the ads. And then this is where it gets a bit crazier and scientific. We basically do scientifically, we break down the ads by section and also by timestamps. So we record, this is also good for the creative team so they know exactly what frameworks are working. We basically say, okay, from second 0 to 1, this happened with this B-roll. From second 2 to 9, this happened with this speaker. In this case, it's a man speaking and it's sharing a pain, a credibility factor. And this is exactly what happened with this specific B-roll. We basically do this throughout the entire ad. And the major perspective here is two things. Number one, understand what makes a winning ad, studying the ad scientifically. And number two, we are able to then compare this to our losing ad, the failed ad, so that we can compare and start making hypothesis, right? This is just a visual map. It's like the same thing that I just showed you on the other page over here, but it's just like in horizontal format and a bit more visual. As you can see, this is the entire ad. And then we basically break it down by segment, what happens when and when, hook, relatable point, partner validation, ingredient credibility, lifestyle, the proof, right? And the call to action, basically the structure of the video. And then we have the frames by second and then the required B-roll so that also the team can see. The next thing, as I said, is that once we have the structure, we can compare our failed ads right next to it and start seeing, okay, in this ad, this happens in this sequence. In this other ad, this happens in this other sequence. And so we can basically understand and start making A/B tests, and creating iterations, which is kind of like my next step that I wanted to talk about, which is super, super important. Once we know what structure works, and now that we can compare it with the winning ad, we can start taking testing and doing A/B tests and saying, okay, the structure of the video was very similar, but in the winning version, this one over here, they used a very dramatic hook with an ex-girlfriend doing this, and that. And so maybe we want to test something different, something similar to make sure that we're precisely comparing, right, and getting principles that are already proven to work in the market and kind of reiterating and trying to make them work for us. And so they're not random tests. We want to be strategic with the creative testing, right? And so once again, the best way to do it is to literally compare your failed ads with your winners and try to understand, what's the major difference. And one important thing over here that really allows us to gain leverage is that every single time we do a test, we record it into our command center. By the way, you can get the sheet if you want. It's completely free. This is our creative testing tracker sheet. There's a link down below, but we also have so many other sheets like our email flows, CRO tracker, UGC tracker, ad copies, creative concepts, daily report, so many things. We track competitors. Just get it. It's the same exact sheet that we use for our own 8-figure clients. And so it's very helpful. And so what we do here that allows us to have leverage and be very, very organized with our creative process, and I've gone through this many, many times in all of my other videos, is that we basically every single test that we put on the ad account, we put it also over here so that we can record every little aspect of the ad, the marketing angle that we use, the main emotion, the avatar, the hook, the messaging, so that we can come up with inferences and predictions on what next steps we need to take to improve and create more profitable ads. And then, of course, here you can track win rate. So important, right? Track the number of ads that are losers compared to winners. And so this is actually a real life example. We only have 29% losers, 35% to be determined, meaning that they need to spend more to see. 23% are break even and 12% are winners. So this is actually very, very strong formulas. And so what we go ahead and do here is that we understand and we try to study the losers, the to be determined and the break evens to see, okay, what is the major difference between our win rate ads and these ones that are just breaking even, losing money, or kind of like, not there yet. And so this is what we like to do. We also create graphical representations where we can see the types of creative concepts that we test. And so, of course, the ones that, if we see that there's a majority in like raw UGC videos, it's probably because it's working. So we dive deeper and analyze. Long story short, I'm going to stop here because then I'm going to rant for another hour. You need to do your A/B test strategically and record everything. Just get the sheet that I just shared. What is the overall goal over here? The overall goal is that as you start doing batches of ads, this is like batch 1, maybe 1 week. Week number 2, you have another batch of ads. Week number 3, you have another batch of ads. These are all like individual ads, ad 1, ad 2, ad 3. As you move on in time, instead of having all losers, which is basically these X's, you start increasing your ad hit rate. The number that I just mentioned over here, right? This thing over here, this graph, the win rate of your ads, this is what you should be optimizing for. We have some clients, just as an example, that are like they're like spending $5,000-$10,000 a day, and they're making whatever, $50,000, $80,000, $100,000 a day in revenue. And we're literally like launching 10 ads a week, not like 300. Like what most people think. We're literally doing 10 ads a week, but they're super high quality and they're like really converting. And so how are we able to find those? Well, we are able to find those by basically doing what I just explained, prioritizing hit rate and A/B tests based on comparison and studying winning ads compared to the failed ads and coming up with A/B tests that actually make sense, not just random, okay? And so what we want to go is maybe from a 1, 2, 3% hit rate of the ads. As we do all of our tests, we increase our hit rate to at least 10, 12, 15%. Ideally, our average within our clients is 12 to 13%. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's a bit less, but this is kind of like what we want to average to really just make sure our ads are effective. Once again here, how do we track all of this? I already talked about this. I'm not going to go over this again, but we basically just put everything into our command center sheet, which is the sheet that I just explored with you or shared with you. Every single test goes into the ad account. We track every single aspect of the ad, so we know exactly what made or broke the ad in the first place. And then we track all these other metrics. This is super fundamental. This alone is super important. Just get the sheet, and there's a link down below. Just get it. It's really, really important. So by tracking all these things, just to kind of conclude the circle here, what ends up happening is that we can actually then filter by ad copies, as an example, or hooks, or B-rolls, or whatever we want, creators, whoever we want, whatever we like to do. We can filter by ROAS based on that thing. So if you want to look at the ad copies that perform the best and filter them by ROAS, we can, because we recorded all the data, and we literally can spot and go into our tracking sheet and say, okay, let me filter by winning ads, and let me also filter by the copy. And as you can see here, we have the link to the copy, and so we can kind of make these graphical representations. And so in this case, we noticed that ad copy number 2 had the highest ROAS, and then the hook number 2 had the highest ROAS, and the script over here, script number 2 had the highest ROAS. So guess what we could do? We can kind of combine them if it makes sense, all the winning components into one ad, and create iterations for our future tests. You see how this is strategically placed? You see how this A/B test over here is a strategic A/B test based on data telling us this worked, or this also worked. This worked, but also this other hook maybe is worth testing, 3.2 ROAS. So we think of iterations and testing in also a very kind of like analytical perspective, okay? That is it for this video. I'm going to do a video again tomorrow. So I'm going to upload daily. In case you didn't know, if you are a new viewer, I try to update once or twice at probably 4 to 5 times a week. So I try to be consistent. Let me know if you have any video ideas. But that is it for this video. I hope you got some value. If you are brand doing at least $100,000 a month and you want to explore the opportunity of working with a growth partner just like us, you can just click the link down below. What's going to happen on the call? It's just going to be a super chill call. We're probably going to hop on the call with me or one of my team members, and we're just going to audit your brand and try to see if there's missed opportunities. If we find missed opportunities and we happen to have a spot open into our agency, then that's when we can discuss a collaboration. That is it for this video. Get the command center sheet. It's completely free, and hopefully see you in the call, and also definitely in the next video. Bye bye.